Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Southborough. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job, I'm an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell. Actually, we have offices right down the street in Westborough. But this is not about my day job. This is about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've been to my presentations at the Senior Center, then you know that Frank and Mary's goal in life is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that's Southborough, that means they want to stay right in Southborough. They don't want to move far away. They don't even want to move close. They like Southborough. And so the point of the show is to let folks know, if they're like Frank and Mary, who they need to know and what programs they need to know about to live a better life, to help them just live a more fun, enjoyable life here in Southborough. Now, obviously, for seniors especially, this has not been a really fun time because of going through COVID, and that's why for a number of weeks, my co-host Doug Peck, and everybody seems to know Doug Peck. Doug has been in Southborough for ages, works at a firm called Seniors Helping Seniors. So we know from talking to folks that this has been a really hard time. So Doug has, as you know, he always finds the great guests to have today here on the show from Southborough or from the area to talk about these issues. Doug, I know we've got a great guest today. It seems to me Josh has been on the show before, but I think that we really wanted to talk about, and you did, kind of figuring out, talking about how seniors are coping and about how to deal with that.
Right.
So Doug, whom do we have?
Yes.
And what do we want to talk about?
We have Josh Obeiter, who is the owner and executive director of Seniors Helping Seniors of Boston and Metro West. So I wanted Josh on because he really is sort of in the midst of the battle, and he has been since March with seniors. We're going out to seniors' homes and working with them, and the dynamic has really changed in the last few months. And because he's been so much involved with the day-to-day, and we deal with so many different clients, I wanted him to be able to give an overview of what's going on, how the isolation has affected seniors, and how by having somebody come into the home, it can really help. And there's no one right answer for when you should, let somebody come in. But Josh has had a lot of experience now with doing this, and I just wanted him to be able to talk to the seniors about just what's going on out there.
And
So
Josh, I know we've known you for like several years now. This is like a small universe, right?
Yes.
The same old people, they talk like me, right? We're talking to these folks. But could you, for folks who don't know about Seniors Helping Seniors, can you just talk a little bit about kind of the premise behind the organization and how you got involved? And then I'll take, I think Doug can really kind of talk from there in terms of what people are going through.
Sure. So thanks for having me on the Frank and Mary show this morning. So Seniors Helping Seniors is a non-medical home care agency that exclusively focuses on really the social emotional relationship of getting support. And now more than ever, people really need that social connection in the times of COVID when they're more isolated and physically removed from family and friends than ever before. So we help with all the things that you need to get through your day, everything from grocery shopping to meal preparation, to taking you to a doctor's appointment, to reminding you to take your medications, but also, sharing a meal with you, playing a game of cards with you, going on a walk, helping you have that quality of life that you enjoy. And all of our employees are older adults themselves, so they're 50 plus, but on average, late 60s. So they, like our clients, are experiencing some of the same, I think, Arthur, as you said earlier, the same trauma that our clients are experiencing right now with COVID, and dealing with and navigating the challenges as they come each day. So not only can our caregivers really connect and relate on interpersonal level, but they can really relate in terms of what it means to be an older adult in the times of COVID-19.
I think that's one of the interesting things. The thing I loved about the organization when I first met Doug, and Doug told me about it several years ago, was this premise that the best people in many cases to be interacting with seniors are other seniors, because you have a similar kind of memory bank, the same songs, you went through in many cases a lot of the same experiences, but and which is a wonderful thing, and that unique thing also makes this a uniquely affected organization during this time, because your employees as well as your clients are in this age group. It's really incredible. So thank you for that, Doug.
So Josh, what have you been finding when people go into and meet seniors, particularly in their own homes? Is it sort of safe for everybody to do things like that right now?
Yeah, so I think there's been somewhat of an evolution over the past 5 months since COVID-19 kind of, wreaked havoc on our world. And initially, we saw a very steep decline in client visits because there was that uncertainty around, how do I protect myself? How do I protect my clients? Is it worth it? And I think over time, month by month, week by week, we've really been fine-tuning what it looks like to visit with someone safely. And both from the caregiver vantage point as well as the client vantage point, certain things have cropped up, certain things have become more information has become available, that people their comfort level of allowing someone in their home has increased.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, when everything first hit, no one was looking to have any stranger in their home unless it was absolutely necessary. I mean, look, people weren't even going into the hospital even for emergencies. And now I think with, looking at the trends in Massachusetts, looking at the effectiveness of personal protective equipment, also looking at people's level of potential exposure, we have a really good sense in terms of how safe it is to make a visit. There's risk in everything that we do each and every single day. So it's important about taking a calculated risk. So first, we look at it from our caregiver vantage point. We look at their level of comfort, who their circle of interactions are. Are they living in a multi-generational family? Are they traveling, to get a sense of what they're doing? And as long as they're taking the appropriate precautions, then we provide them with PPE. Most of the caregivers are at least wearing a mask, if not more. And then we do the same for our clients. We evaluate kind of what their circle of connections and contacts is on a regular basis, and make that determination in their home. And what we found is that most seniors, both caregivers and clients, have been quite careful. During the pandemic. So the potential for risk is actually quite low, especially when you combine PPE. So I think two factors have come into play. I think in the beginning, our older adult caregivers who were cautious and unwilling to work have become more aware and a little bit less afraid of the risk, more aware of kind of how to protect themselves and others with PPE, and have also been socially isolated and bored, and they have that desire to give back and to help. But our clients also, who maybe were putting off our services for a short period of time, the families or the spouses, whoever is their primary family caregiver, they were realizing, wow, they're really declining because they're not getting the support that they need, or the family caregiver is incredibly burnt out. So they didn't realize how much they relied on this service. And not only are we meeting a physical need, but we're also meeting an emotional need for people. So I think those two factors combined, we've seen a rise in active clients, but also a rise in kind of what you'd call consumer confidence.
Okay.
And by the way, so in terms of just what you're talking about, kind of the way in which the interactions themselves have changed, I was just thinking as you were describing that, we forget that 4 months ago when we were talking about this stuff, you just didn't want to even touch anything, right? That had been touched by anybody. And everybody was wearing gloves. It was because the CDC had based on their initial data, it was sounding a lot like, this transmissions were, really problematic just from everything. And it just seems like that has, from my observation with clients, the concern about that, the advisories on that have kind of changed, and people's attitude about that has changed, so that at least you feel like you can walk in and you can touch the doorknob and everything doesn't kind of like fall apart. When you're saying that people are using PPE, can you kind of describe from the client's perspective, what kind of drill your caregiver is going through at a typical visit? And then I know, from as Doug as talked about, then looking at it really from the perspective of the caregiver themselves, how does the caregiver feel that they can deal with all that stuff? Is that a fair question?
So you're looking to know what PPE a caregiver is wearing on a...
Yeah, and typically how that, how those let's say COVID related issues would play out if someone were visiting, or if someone were taking somebody on a car ride, or if that still happens, or how those pieces work, right?
Yeah. So I think, everything looks different with COVID, right? We live in a very different world than we lived in 6 months ago. So like I said, from earlier on, a basic perspective, all the caregivers are wearing at least a mask. Depending upon the level of risk in a particular situation, if we're visiting someone in an assisted living or in an independent living community where there have in the past been a higher volume of positive COVID-19 cases, then the caregiver is often wearing a face shield, and they have the option of wearing a gown should they feel like that is what they need to feel comfortable. When we're in a client's residence, we're often distancing whenever possible. So, we're not sitting next to them, we're sitting across the room from them. At a dining room table, we're probably sitting at opposite ends when, sharing a meal. There are the inevitable times when maybe, walking with someone to the bathroom and giving them an extra arm to make sure that they, ambulate and transfer and can move safely. Then certainly we're washing our hands and having the client wash their hands whenever physical distancing is impossible. Initially, we were not taking clients out of their home, and because we didn't want to expose them to to any outside risk. With that, over time, what we realized is people needed to get places. They needed to get to doctor's appointments. They needed to get to the pharmacy. They needed to get outside for their mental health. So what we do when we take people out is we often have the client sit in the back seat of the car, and we keep the windows down to allow for that cross ventilation. We also open windows when we're visiting clients if possible as well. So taking just those general precautions, wearing a mask, washing our hands often, those are all really good basic standard measures that we can do to help everyone feel a little bit more comfortable.
Mm-hmm. I think
that really helps.
I can speak to that, Arthur, because I actually work with a client who's in an assisted living facility, and I've taken him to a dentist appointment and actually get his hair cut too, because it was months and it was really bothering him. And very cooperative, sat in the back seat. He uses a wheelchair just to help get around, to go distances, and he needs a little help getting in and out. But what we found is, in people's homes, they've been there for so long. If they've been there for 4 or 5 months, relatively isolated, the chance of them having COVID is really, really pretty minimal. And in this facility, we checked beforehand, and they haven't had COVID for like 6 or 8 weeks, anything. So I know that they're pretty safe. I've been very restricted. So he was just, what I can tell you is he was just so happy to get out and then to have somebody else to talk to. You know, even on the ride to a dentist office, because he had a very bad tooth, he had to go. They were very well prepared for us, and everybody was dressed and everything else. And it was a good experience. But just going for the ride, talking to him, talking to him about different things, I could see a real change in him in the few hours that we were together. Just more animated, because it's so very hard. Even if you're in a community, you tend to sort of self-isolate, and it can be very, very hard on folks. But I think what Josh is saying, with the proper precautions, because we know that most of the time this is spread by air, by not covering your face, and by spending long periods of time inside. So if you're outside, windows are open, you keep safe distance, you really reduce the risk, but it really has helped their mental state.
And I suppose when you describe that, I would bet that for a lot of folks who've been at home too, they would not, because they haven't been going to these places, they would not themselves realize how much the folks at the other end have changed their procedures, that the dentist really has changed, that the hairdresser, that the barber, that they've all changed,
Right.
so that you can experience a relative degree of safety, right?
Yeah.
Doing these things, and so if Seniors Helping Seniors or anyone can help them with the mobility piece, of actually getting them there, it really helps. But can you, from your perspective, or from the two of your perspective, so how are you dealing with yourselves getting out? How are you dealing with finding new caregivers, right? Because obviously in this new reality, there are a lot of people that are really feeling stuck and are feeling that they don't want to go someplace on their own. But on the flip side, how do you find caregivers?
Yes. So, it's an interesting time, in the home care industry at large. If you look at the numbers, there is a growing concern of a caregiver shortage, not only for Seniors Helping Seniors, but in certified nursing assistants, personal care attendants, home health aides across the state and across the country. And as we have an aging population, and less people entering into the home care industry, if you want to call it that, we have a real problem. And I think COVID-19 has exacerbated that to an extent, because people are not moving into supportive living environments like assisted livings, like skilled nursing facilities, memory care communities, like they were 6-8 months ago, because they were the hotbed of many COVID-19 cases, and unfortunately a large number of deaths. So when I talked earlier about consumer confidence, I think, is still relatively low about moving into a facility, even though, as Doug mentioned, they are the ones who are testing staff regularly that enter the building, and the residents that live there are really not going anywhere. But again, there's that perception that it's unsafe. So that has led to a lot more people looking to stay home, and in turn increase the need for services like Seniors Helping Seniors and other non-medical home care agencies. So we are in a kind of an uncharted situation right now, because we don't have the supply to meet our demand. And so really what we're trying to do is encourage anybody who, for our organization, somebody who is over 50 years old and who has the heart of a volunteer and who's looking to give back and help in a meaningful way, we'd love to talk with you, because we, at this point in time, we've done a lot of work on our end to ensure that caregivers and clients remain safe, and people are relying on us, and it's hard to be there for people when we don't have adequate staffing. So right now we're in a unique situation, but like our counterparts are as well, is really finding people that are able to work. And right now, almost all of our clients are living in a private residence. So there is not going to be that, that added layer of going into a facility, even though they are quite safe at this point.
So
So
one of the things,
excuse me, Doug, I just want to go to a couple of things that you just said. So you would want to do this if you have the heart of the volunteer, but you're not doing this with volunteer. People should know that they're getting paid. They're not
Right.
getting paid.
Right.
Well, they're not getting paid my rate. That's a terrible, but that they're getting paid, and for people who might be interested in doing this, they should, based on all of this, even think of this as kind of a short-term test thing, that right now they're doing it to really help a lot of people who really, really need it. And it may be that demand will go down after COVID, but you're really helping. But I know, as Doug has often said in talking about the people who have gotten involved with you guys, that people will come in and try it and may get to really like this as a kind of a way to do meaningful stuff, while at the same time, kind of justifying it to themselves by saying, well, I'm not doing it for nothing. I may not be making what I was making before I retired, but I'm doing it. So could you just talk to, if I were interested in doing this, well, first of all, kind of like, who do I call? And what do I do? What is the nature of the deal? Is this hourly? Are you expecting a given number of hours per week? Is it within a particular geographical area? We're in Southborough now, so how far away would you be thinking people might wanting to travel? Could you just kind of talk to those issues? Just talk as if I were thinking of applying, right?
Yeah. So right, like you bring up a good point. It is not a volunteer opportunity. It is a paid position, and it could be a stopgap measure for certain people. We've lowered our minimum age requirement to people 45 and up. So with Massachusetts having one of the largest percentages of unemployed in the state, this is a great opportunity to start earning some additional income during these challenging times. So really, what's nice about Seniors Helping Seniors is we don't require people to have prerequisite experience. They don't need to be a certified nursing assistant or home health aide or personal care attendant. What we really most value is life experience, the ability to, that you've, maybe been a family caregiver, or that you have, had an interest in the older adult population. Interest, personality is weighted much more heavily than, a formal background in this. So our process is such that you really get to learn about our organization and learn about what we do as part of the interview. So you come in for our first interview, you meet our staff. First and foremost, you fill out an application online, which is quite brief, which allows us to collect some basic demographic information. You speak with our manager of human resources, who can walk you through what that process is. And then you come in for an interview, and you read our training manual, you complete a quiz to make sure that you really understand what we do. And then from there, you go through a paid orientation and training, which is 3.5 hours long at our office in Waltham, where we socially distance. And we really give you the nuts and bolts of how to do this work in an effective way, both from a COVID-19 safety vantage point, but also from what we have learned to be the most tried and true ways of being an effective companion and caregiver. And what's nice about this work is it's flexible. You are a part-time employee with us, so you really can call the shots in terms of when you're looking to work, how much you're looking to work, and where you want to work. So you're never going to be forced into an assignment that you're not comfortable with. So for example, if you're living in Southborough and you want to stay in the boroughs, you want to stay in Northborough, Westborough, we can help you do that. If you only want to work Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., we can help you do that. If you only want to work, if you're working maybe another job and you want to work our job around it, we can help do that for you. What's unique about our organization is that we have people relying on us 24/7. So there's always opportunities for you to jump in and to help. Our process is such as that you really get to feel comfortable about your assignment before taking it on. You get to meet your client. So we really work hard to make it a win-win experience for both the caregiver and client. And that's really kind of the secret sauce to our success.
Here's some good news, is that we are going to have a virtual job fair on September 10th. I will put that information up at the end of this, so people can ask all these questions. They don't have to go anywhere. They can meet other caregivers as well as some of the staff and get a really good sense of what this is about. You know, I've been doing this now for almost 10 years. And, you know, if people try it and for some reason they try once or twice and they don't like it, that's fine. You know, but what we found is that such a high percentage, once they start, they really connect with the people that they're working with, you know, that the clients, and that they find that it's really rewarding for them. I mean, after all, if you've been volunteering at a senior center, and this is one of the places we're going after, folks, senior centers rely on a lot of volunteers. Well, guess what? The volunteers aren't volunteering right now. All the senior centers are closed. If you want to work 5-6 hours a week and actually get a little bit, you know, paid for it while the senior centers are closed and you want to go back afterwards, that's great. But this allows you to keep that sort of heart of a volunteer going while you're waiting for other things to happen.
So I guess to the folks who are watching, this is a unique organization, you know, and I understand certainly, you know, we appreciate the willingness of Southborough Cable to do our shows in general. And we don't want this to look like a big commercial for a big for-profit, blah, 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 except this is an unusual home care entity in that you've got seniors on both sides of the equation. So I really want, this is really a kind of a shout out to people who are seniors who may be at home, who had maybe were doing volunteer work or not and are just bored, and who want to be responding in a positive way to this unique problem that you've got. You've got this whole COVID-19 at this point. Well, for want of a better term, the rest of the world has moved on, right? The average person now is just saying, oh, well, you know, everything's fine. You know, I just got to be a little bit careful and wear my mask. And the folks who are the most affected, seniors, right, therefore are needing to kind of, I want to say, stick together and help each other out through this difficult time, at least until there's a vaccine. So, you know, Josh, I really want to thank you for coming. Doug, I want to thank you for suggesting this show. I think this is really important. For the folks who are there, you know, we'll have information regarding how you could check this out or sign up. You know, you know, you may be doing yourself a favor. You'll probably be doing a lot of seniors a favor. And so if I'm Frank and Mary and I'm stuck at home, I'm kind of urging you to try this because you may be helping me. Right. So thank you very much, Josh. Thank you, Doug. A real pleasure. Thanks to the folks at Southborough Cable for being willing to do this show. And we'll hope to see you in a couple of weeks in the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Southborough. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks so much.